What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to talk about Alan Wake 2 and a little concern I have over this game. Now, some of it is its own doing and some of it is not its own doing. So I kind of just want to make that clear in the beginning of this video. And also, this is regardless of the quality of the game. I'm rooting for this game. I'm really excited for this game. I've said many times in live streams or videos, when I think of games that can be Game of the Year type games at the end of this year, Alan Wake 2 is one of them. It absolutely is. It would stand, I would hope so, with the Starfields of the world, with the Spider-Mans or Baldur's Gate, Hogwarts, and all these games. I think Alan Wake 2, at least right now, would deserve to be part of it. Obviously, you got to wait and see for the game's quality, but I think it's going to be a rather good game. So let's start with the thing that is its fault, and it's the whole release of physical versus digital. Now, we've talked about this in past videos. I don't want to, re-say obvious things that I've already said multiple times, but it has made an impact. I do think it's made people rather upset, and it's hard to judge exactly how much that'll hurt this game, but there have been people, and you could take it for what it's worth or say that the people are lying, whatever you want to do. I have seen numerous people say that specifically, they are not getting the game because of it. They're just flat out going to avoid the game because of the whole not releasing physically. Again, you can believe those people. You can say, well, that's a small amount of them. You can say they're lying and they'll end up getting the game anyway, whatever you want to say. But I do think, as the preservation of games things heats up and more games do this, I do think it's a turnoff, 100%. I think it's a turnoff. I think people will be turned off by it. Again, we don't really know the number, but it is something that I think you didn't really need to do to hurt your game. And I think even if it hurts it like this much, right, this little bit, it still did hurt it, and you didn't need to do that. But the rest of why I'm concerned is actually more for the release date, specifically when it's releasing. And I think back to Alan Wake as a franchise, or even, if you want to be honest, several of Remedy's games. You can think of Control. These games do not sell outrageously well. And in fact, for Alan Wake in particular, this franchise, it's why it's taken so long, right? This is a game notoriously that came out, and I mean, like, it didn't do all that well. Now, it reached, I believe, 3 million units sold after 3 years. And then I think after 5 years, it reached 4.5 million units sold. And I don't think there's actually been an update since around halfway through 2015. So if you want to give it an extra million or two, you want to say it's reached, 5, 6 million, I think that's a good number. It for sure is. But it took an incredibly long time to get there. And if you think about, 3 million units in 3 years, it's good, but it's not amazing. And for this kind of pillar franchise, and that's why it really isn't, right? It's a franchise that, well, now it is a franchise. I guess originally it was just one game. It's extremely good. It got a cult audience. I was one of them. I played the game when it first came out. I loved the game, still love it now. Played the remastered game, and I want to talk about that in a second as well. But it would be foolish of us to not remember that this game has never sold outrageously well. Okay, so that's one thing to think about. Control is another one. Control sold well, but not insanely well. Quantum Break is another one. I mean, you can keep going, right? But one other thing you can think about is the Alan Wake Remastered. And this is something I remembered, but wasn't sure if I remembered it correctly. But no, I looked it up, and I actually did remember it correctly. So they did admit or said out loud that it was a disappointment. If you want to say failure, whatever word you want to toss around, but it did not meet their expectations of sales. So what you're still seeing, and again, I'm trying to make a story here. You got to follow me through all the way for it to all make sense, I guess, right? Much like Alan Wake. But, what we have is Alan Wake, the original game took a while and, built up over time and sold, decently enough, but at least initially did not sell well enough to get more of them. Control and other games that they've made have sold okay, but not absolutely amazing. And then even the most recent time we've gotten Alan Wake, and we got it back for the remaster, which again, I played. I think they gave me a review code. So maybe I'll just throw that out there if I need to. I'm pretty sure I reviewed it for them. But I really liked that game. I thought that game was awesome, but that game also didn't sell well. So where am I going with this? Well, I am worried about when the game releases. This is not a franchise that's considered, I would say, it's not a franchise that other games are afraid of, okay? And when I say that, I would maybe come up with the Starfields of the world or the Spider-Mans of the world, or if you go back to last year, like God of War Ragnarok, there are some games, or next year with GTA 6, right? GTA 6 is kind of like the king amongst all of them. When these games come out, other companies full well know what they're dealing with, and some of them will flat out delay their games just to get out of the way. Just flat out to get out of the way. And I've gone back and forth. I've said this in live streams. If I'm Alan Wake, I'm Remedy, specifically the company, I'm maybe considering moving this thing just a little bit because its release window is very, very crowded. And again, this is why the whole physical digital thing, it's maybe not a big deal to many people, but even if it turns off a couple tens of thousand or 100,000, and maybe it doesn't, right? But even if it turns off 20,000 people, you need those people because this game comes smack dab in between. Well, it comes after Starfield, right? Starfield is quite a bit before it, but you got Mortal Kombat in the middle of September. That's a big game. Yes, they're different games, but it's still a big game. You go into October, and well, what do you have? Well, you got quite a bit. You got Assassin's Creed Mirage, a small little indie game there. You got games like Spider-Man 2, a small little indie. But no, all joking aside, Assassin's Creed, Spider-Man, there's the rumors when I'm recording this and probably when you guys are seeing this, right? Red Dead. So Red Dead is going to get whether it's a remaster or a remake. Well, Red Dead 2 came out at, I believe, the end of October, the year it released. Now, they release their games kind of all over the place, but if this Red Dead game, even if it's just the first one again, if that game comes out late October, early November, it is packed. October is probably the biggest month for games. There are games large and small releasing. And I get it. Every game, you're going to have to compete at some point. Okay, so you can't move Alan Wake to like literally a perfect spot in time where there's no competition whatsoever. You're probably going to move it somewhere where there's still going to be a game the week before, week after, or week of that's going to compete with. It's literally just the way it works, right? There's only so many weeks in the year. But I just think where it's at currently does scare me. This is we'll say it one last time. It's a franchise that's not the strongest thing of all time. Games aren't really afraid. If you're Spider-Man, if you're Assassin's Creed, if you're these games releasing in that middle of October range, you really don't need to. If anything, you're probably more afraid of that. You're more afraid of Spider-Man. That is probably the game in October to worry about. If you're in September, you're probably worried about Mortal Kombat and Starfield, right? If you're releasing in early August, you're afraid of Baldur's Gate 3. We've actually already seen games move because of that, right? So that's kind of where I'm going with this. I'm not saying Alan Wake needs to move. I'm just saying there is some concern about, for me, like this. And why does that matter? Well, a couple things I guess I'd want to throw in for that one. I guess, like, to me, does it matter if the game sells? Like, I don't get, like, a cut of the sales or anything. I'm not the workers there. So I guess, to a sense, I don't care. But I do care, well, for a couple different ways. Number one, I love this series. I love to cover it. I like to talk about it. So I guess it does help me out on the channel. Also, as a consumer, I like these games, so I want to see the franchise continue. Remedy is doing a lot of other things. All their games connect. I wouldn't be surprised if Alan Wake in some way has part to do with Control 2, or at least, again, it's in the same universe, so everything kind of connects. Do you ever want an Alan Wake 3? I sure do. Do we want an Alan Wake 3 13 years from now? No, not really, right? I'd like it sooner than then. So, again, like, I don't get kickback from their sales. So do I care if the thing sells slow in the beginning and maybe sells better over time? No, it means very, very little to me. But I do care about the franchise, and I do want it to succeed if it deserves it. Now, up until this point, I think it does deserve it. They kind of shot themselves in the foot with the release of physical digital, but I think the quality of the game is still going to be really good. I'm still excited for it. I'm still going to get it. And then, now if the game's like terrible, then I guess things change. I guess my care for it would lessen. So I guess what happens to it, my care for that would also lessen, right? But I am a little concerned because this is, it's a game that's big for me. I think if we're honest with ourselves, even like the diehard Alan Wake fans, you go around, you ask people, you look at live streams, you look at videos, you look at Twitter, you look at kind of like the excitement for games in the fall, and you tell me where Alan Wake is in like the top 2 or 3 on most people's list. It's not in their top. And, again, that's fine. Maybe we're not looking at the right group for that. I'm sure there are people, but is this a game that sells 1 million units in the first month? Is this a game that sells 5? That's the thing. It's not a game that's going to sell 5 million units in the first month or two. But like if it does really, really bad, what the future of the franchise, the future of Remedy, I imagine they're looking for the money to come in from Alan Wake 2 so that they can, we know all these other games that Remedy is working on, whether it's things that are years and years out, or whether it's games that are being worked on simultaneously with different teams. I assume they need the money, and if there's nothing coming in from Alan Wake 2, I imagine that could be a problem. So you let me know, let me know if I'm overreacting. I really don't think I am, but somebody will, of course, tell me that in the comments. Let me know. Make sure, as always, you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on. If you want to check out any of my other YouTube channels, our Twitter, our Discord, all those links, or X, not Twitter anymore, all the links are in the description below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.